Hello and welcome to this week's IG Live. Today I'm excited to be talking to my friend and friend of Makeaway Media, Aditi Wardhan Singh. She's the author of the new book, Sanya's New Starts. She's also the author of a number of picture books, which are really wonderful, inclusive picture books, and they all talk about aspects of personal growth for kids. So you have to check those out. We are going to be talking about her new chapter book, which she actually wrote with her daughter. Here, and hold on, let me get virtual birthday party, our 10th anniversary party, and was so wonderful. And we wanted to give her a chance to talk about her new book. She was actually on here. I looked it up, Aditi. I think it was 2 years ago this summer. You were on here before, and I don't remember which of your books we were talking about, if we were just talking kind of generally about your new books. Was that when Amaya's Two Worlds came out? Maybe?
I think so. It could be Amaya's Two Worlds or it could be The Sparkles Within, because I think I did these two books last year, I think.
Oh, yes.
I
So,
think they're all blending into
yeah.
each other.
You have so many books that you've written and all like really recently. So, but
Yes.
I want to be able to talk kind of generally about your books. But of course, we are going to be focusing on your new one. But first, for those who don't know you, or that maybe they missed the virtual party, why don't you tell us, just introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
Before I introduce myself, I want to apologize to anyone if I behave a little weirdly because I cannot see Liana. But that being said, I have had this experience before, and usually it doesn't make a difference to the person who's having the video, who's hosting the video. So hopefully we should be good.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know because I know
That's fine.
we're
I
just
think
starting it,
I,
but
I don't know why that happens, but it's happened to me once before. If you remember, I had hosted a panel of authors, I think 6, 7 months back, and we had one of the authors. I couldn't see her. We did the whole interview, and then when I saved the video, I could see her, which was
oh,
great.
that's good.
So now I'm on the other side. So, introducing myself, hi, I'm Aditi Wardhan Singh. I'm the author of all these books and this book. I have a couple of books written for adults as well, actually three. So, I specifically speak about cultural sensitivity and self-empowerment because I think they're very connected. About me, I am the founder of Raising World Children and the chief editor of the online platform. I am also an author, of course, and on as services I provide to authors, specifically multicultural authors, in editing or coaching or any other services they might need to help them grow on their path of writing.
So I know we have a lot of people that watch that might be potential authors because we kind of cover that topic a lot. So be sure to check out her services because I know you've helped quite a few authors.
Yes, I have helped over 200 authors so far. I'm very excited about that number.
Wow, I knew you'd helped a lot. I didn't realize it was that many. That's amazing.
Yes, it's been exciting. It's been a good journey.
Because uh, we talk a lot about the need for more diverse books and how the publishing industry isn't always very welcoming to diverse voices. So it's really great to hear to meet somebody who's doing something about that. And because I know there are a lot of people who might want to be an author and they're not sure how to go about doing that. So that's wonderful. And I did want to talk a little bit about, we want to talk about your new book, but I want to put it in the context of your other book and all of your other work that you do helping other authors, your website, which has a lot of parenting articles about inclusion and diversity. Why is this such an important topic to you?
So, to understand my passion for my topic of my chosen topic in writing and coaching, we have to go a little bit back into my history. I'm an Indian of who was raised in Kuwait, and now I'm raising kids in America, as Liana knows, and it has been such a journey. When I started my freelancing writing career, I was specifically writing about my multicultural challenges that I was experiencing, and not a lot of people were talking about it. So I wanted to start a platform where diverse voices came and we spoke about culture, not in terms of religion or heritage, but in terms of our choices and actions and the ways we live, because that can be different regardless of what we have. And I believe now I am kind of pivoting towards speaking specifically about inclusion, because where diversity is concerned, we do know that everyone is different, because even the person who's from a similar culture chooses to practice their religion or culture in different ways. But it is also about being inclusive and accepting those different voices, because nowadays I see more of people accept that someone is diverse, but they kind of still want them to be a little bit stereotypical, if I may say so. So
Mhm.
I'm trying to break those barriers and trying to write books and help other authors who are doing the same, and talking a lot more about belonging, because I do believe we have been talking a lot about, people being inclusive, and other people, how we should act towards other people. But I think the conversation should be more about how we should be kind to ourselves, accept ourselves, and understand that our belonging comes from within, which is what drives my passion towards this topic.
I love that. That's so interesting because going back to what you said about inclusion,
Yeah.
that a lot of times when people talk about diversity, could you say a little bit more about that? About that you see that they still want to keep people kind of in their boxes, or they want them to act in kind of a stereotypical way.
Yes, so like I have to bring the book up because I
Yeah.
mentioned it in the book. So Sanya's new start has a person who is kind of bullying this girl, and she uses the stereotypes that she knows of Indians on the girl. Say, hey, you are Indian, so you probably do this or you probably do that. And the fact of the matter is that we don't. I grew up in Kuwait. I am hardly, I even tell people that, my Indianness is certainly not Indian in any way. And that's something that I want to talk a lot more about, because people tend to think of us, be it skin color, be it name, be it religion, be it a language, that, oh, if this person is this way, because that is what we see in television and in books. And that is my problem with the traditional companies. You had mentioned it. And it is very hard because nowadays, of course, it's changing. The industry itself is evolving because there are more voices like my own talking about their personal struggles. But we still have people just trying to speak about what is commonly known. We are not talking about the struggles of a person who has a name and who's kind of like saying that, oh, you know what, I'm fine with different people calling me different names as long as they're not mocking me using my name. Those are issues also that someone struggles with their cultural identity. And these are some things that I want to discuss more in the coming books as well.
I love that, and also like that you specifically bring this up in the book, because this is a book for older kids, and I know sometimes people are really hesitant to talk to their kids about race or about diversity, and either they're not sure how to talk about it in an age appropriate way, or they're not sure if they should talk about it at this age. Do you have any tips for people? I mean, one of the things I really like about this book is that I think the parents are very realistic. You see them get mad, you see them kind of be overwhelmed. As a parent, like, I could read so much into what was happening with the parents, and yet at the same time, they're also really good about modeling saying that you're sorry, or how to deal with situations. So they give a lot of good advice, I think, to Sanya, at the same time as not telling her exactly how to solve her problems. So what tips would you give to parents?
So, number one, I think that sometimes we put too much pressure around a topic when we're discussing it, because, of course, as parents, we want to get it absolutely right, and that's completely fair. Most of us are doing it for the first time with our first child. So we are kind of like just figuring things out. I think, first of all, we need to have grace with ourselves, that it's okay. You could get a few things wrong, but it's important to start. Number two, it is that the age appropriateness is the most important thing. I think the world that we are living in, how we say that, everyone's becoming too, for lack of a better word, polarized, right? It's kind of like we're trying to be like, oh, we are going to give all the information to our child immediately. But the child's brain is not going to accept everything. So I think when they're really young, you just first, of course, please first, and I think number two would be educate yourself, try to read more books, try to find more books that are talking about diverse situations. I know it's not possible to do everything and find every book. So diversify your circle, have different conversations with people, be open of having conversations with your colleagues or with your family friends, that, oh, I've heard that this is how things are, how would things be, like with Culture Kids Media, who's joined us. I did a whole segment about weddings and how things are and how they used to be and how they have evolved with time. So you can educate yourself, and once you educate yourself, you're going to kind of be able to educate your child when they ask you, okay, why does this that lady is wear why is she wearing a cover over her head, or why is that lady wearing a bindi, or why are these people wearing these elaborate outfits on this festival, does everyone wear them, these kind of questions, or does everyone pray to the 300 gods that Hindus pray with, or are is it just one? So unless you try to educate yourself as a parent, you are not going to be able to educate your child. I think number three is, I think the biggest mistake people make is, oh, I'll wait till my child is old enough regarding any topic. And this I'm going to bring up because a lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to wait for the school to talk about it, or I'm going to wait for someone else, some experience to make my child understand this. But I think the more conversations you have with your child, the more open-ended conversations, more importantly, the more they're going to be able to understand what you're trying to say. Now, if you tell a child that, oh, this is what racism is, a 4-year-old or 6-year-old is not going to understand. But if you just point out in context that, oh, we celebrated this, or we went to this festival, and this is the culture that they come from, and this is the country, and go to a map and look for it, and maybe find a few facts. I think those are simple, easy ways in which you can just introduce your child to a new world, and slowly with age these conversations will evolve as they experience themselves. My son, when he goes on the bus, he has conversations with his friends about their culture, and it's wonderful when he comes home and he says, Mom, you know what, they were telling me about this and I was able to explain to them. Often children themselves don't even know about their own culture. I wrote Sparkles of Joy, and I spoke about why Sikhs celebrate Diwali. And one of my friends' daughters was like, oh, is this why we celebrate Diwali? And it was so wonderful that she learned through the book. So, of course, I'm a huge proponent of books, but I do understand that books alone cannot help solve the problem. So, I hope all these tips will help.
Yeah, these are wonderful tips. And I, of course, we love that you bring it back to books. But as you say, those are just tools and that we can use. It can't be the entire solution, because you do have to have these conversations. And like you said, it can happen gradually over time. And to go back to your book, the main character faces a lot of obstacles, like starting a new school, having to make friends, bullying, which often, as you mentioned, has a racist tone to it, learning to apologize when she's done something wrong. How can so she really goes through a lot of personal growth over the space of the book, which I should mention is not a difficult book to read if you're thinking of like what age group this is for. I would say this is still for somewhat younger readers. I mean, it is a chapter book, but it goes quickly. It's not a really hard or heavy book to read. And yet a lot happens in the course of this book, and she goes through a lot of personal growth. What advice do you have about that? How we can kind of encourage kids towards this kind of personal growth?
Uh, I think the most important thing is to try to model good behavior. I think, like you mentioned, I think you hit the nail on the nose, if that's the correct term, I think. So when Sanya is experiencing all these things, of course, we want the protagonist to be able to discover things herself, right? In every book, you kind of want, but you have the parents and you have friends to give them direction. And I think that's true for everyone's own life also, where kind of you want to make sure you're giving your children the guidance in which they are empowering themselves to make better decisions. Do you want to make decisions for them, or do you want to make them such that they can take decisions and take actions based on those decisions? And you can trust them, because eventually they are going to fly the coop. They are not going to be with you forever. So our job as parents, of course, is to make sure and do our best, of course, that we can empower our kids to have that confidence that, okay, if this is the situation, then how am I going to face it? So like you said, and that's one of my favorite scenes where, and I think that's so natural, right? When a husband and wife, when we argue, often you see either the husband or the wife, they're, not willing to apologize, I think. And when Sanya's at that pivotal point where she's kind of like, oh, why should I say sorry? Or, what kind of, why, the ego comes in the between.
Right.
But the fact is, in order to preserve a relationship, you need to be able to have seen people who apologize to each other. And I think that is absolutely the first thing to do. And of course, again, having multiple conversations. And of course, one of the first things I remember, since we're talking about it, I have always said that when your kids come from school, or the best time actually is late in the night when they don't want to go to bed, ask them, how was your day in school, and what was something good that happened, and what was something bad that happened. Let's talk about this. I think that is always a game changer, because that time in the night they don't want to sleep, but they are willing to talk, because they think the more we talk, the more my parents are going to let me stay awake. So,
That is a really good point, because mine are so talkative then, because
yes,
exactly for that reason, they don't want to go to bed. And it's not necessarily when I feel like talking, but
yes,
that's definitely when they are more. And sometimes it's something too about it being like a quieter time.
yes.
Sometimes they're more willing to say something that maybe they didn't really want to say earlier in the day.
And I feel like during the night time is when also our day's decisions and our day's actions kind of weigh heavy
Mm.
on us. And I think that's true for children also. They kind of start thinking about, okay, what all happened. And I think the simple uh, desire to not sleep, I think, gets them talking more. And of course, like you said, I think that's a good point where everything's quiet, and then and of course, that's also a time when we really don't want to talk. Sometimes we're like, okay, just brush your teeth, read a book, go to bed. But yes, as a parent, I would say that, if you can make that time to just have those conversations with your child at that uh, end of the day, I think it makes a huge difference.
I love these. These are such great tips, and I think, of course, the main point of the book is that she's learning that it goes back to what you were saying earlier about this idea of belonging, and that belonging comes from within. So, what do you hope kids take away from reading this book? I mean, we've talked a lot about how some of
Yes.
the lessons that Sanya's learned from this about learning to apologize, how to deal with bullies. What's kind of the overall message you want kids to take away from this?
I think the overall message is definitely that you have to take the reins of your life and be okay with people not understanding you totally. I think there are I unfortunately or fortunately, my books are always full of little l- slice of life moments which I hope that people can see themselves in. And that's what most of the kids who have read the book so far come back and say, Auntie, we have experienced this, and we sometimes it's great to see that someone else has also experienced it. And when it's in a book, you kind of feel like, oh, many people must have gone through it. That's why it's in a book. So I think it's really important that children understand that any new beginning, and beginnings are of many types. It can be in a new school or a new home or a new as you see, she gets glasses also during the book, making new friends or renewing relationships. I think these are all new beginnings, and I hope that children, most importantly, take away the confidence that they have the power within them to deal with all of that change, because change is hard for adults, and I'm sure it's harder for kids because they're still learning and their brains are still evolving. And I hope that this book gives them the confidence to deal with all that turmoil that comes up with change.
I love the way you put that about taking the reins of your own life,
Mm.
because I think, because my kids are in this phase right now, I'm really fascinated by this time of life, because it is, as a parent, it's such a balancing act, because like you said, you still want to step in and solve their problems for them, and yet you're having to learn to back away
Yes.
and still give them direction and still model good behavior for them, but to let them make more of their own decisions. It can, as a parent, that can be really hard, but also for the kid, because they're learning to step into that role. So I love that they get to see that happen in the book and how she deals with it. And like you said, they can recognize things that are very relatable in their own lives. And just as a side note, I have to say, one of the things that I loved about it when I was reading it with my daughter, when you're talking about like diversity and inclusion, of course, there might be kids who read this who are come from a similar family to hers. For us, coming from a different cultural background, she loved like every time that you would mention different foods, she would want to go look it up, and we'd look it up. And yet there were also things that she totally related to. Like one of her favorite scenes is when the family's sitting around playing Uno. She's like, "Oh, we do that." So it's like this really neat mix of things that are different and things that are the same. So she relates to her, and yet it's also kind of broadening her horizons and things that she's exposed to. So I thought I love the way that was kind of mixed in here. But of course, we have to talk about one of the main things about the book, which is that this was originally, I mean, the original idea of this came from your daughter, and you wrote this together. So tell us, what was that process like of writing this book together? And all of these ideas you're talking about, you can see that exemplified in her, that she's writing her own story. I mean, you did, if I remember correctly, you didn't even know she had written this until you happened to come across it, right?
No, I knew she had written it.
Okay.
Actually what happened is, I give them essay prompts to write, but she had submitted one of these stories to her school reflections contest, and she went up to state with that. And after that, she wrote two more stories related to that, because she liked the character a lot, and she said, I want to write two more stories. And then she went ahead and wrote two more. And when I read the three stories, I was like, wait. And she has written a lot. She enjoys writing, thankfully. But I was like, wait, these can be, really stretched out, because these are lessons that I learned as a young adult, to be honest, apologizing and, dealing with bullies, and having the space, giving friends the space in which they realize they need to miss you in order to be able to forgive you. That was huge for me. When I read it, I was like, okay, this is from a 10-year-old mind,
Yeah.
and this gives me the idea. And to be honest, that is the crux of her being co-author in this book. Because I was like, okay, I love what you've done. Okay, can we turn this into a book? And I had to get her permission, of course, because she was the original author. And that's mentioned in the book. I'm very honest about that. And then we kind of fleshed it out, and I added a lot of humor and the parents and all that stuff in it. And but I had to get her approval at every step. And I was like, okay, should we tweak this? Should we tweak that? So it was more of a conversation about how early chapter books can be written, because I have been wanting to write something for young adults. I don't know if you have shown, so I'm going to show it again. I have written this book specifically for my all my picture books are also for the 6 to 9, but this has more words. This is like, I think there are 3,500, 4,000 words, and the font is bigger, and I have illustrations breaking up the text to make it an easy read, because I want children to enjoy it. Also, we didn't have the book funny earlier. I hope you found some of the moments hilarious, which we found later on, because a lot of boys were like, oh, we like the story, but it's not funny, so I don't like it. So I was like, okay, let's go back to the drawing board, and we had to make the book funny, because boys like funny. And then now most kids across diaspora are enjoying it. So it was great, because even Sanya's name, the title of the book, the cover, everything, I had to get approval from her, because of course she was the original author. So it was kind of like I ghost wrote the book with her.
Do you think that you'll be working on another book in the future with her?
I would never say no. She probably would say no, but I would say no. Because it took us quite a while. It took us like 4 to 5 months to flesh everything out. So yeah.
Oh, I love it.
That's a long time for a child.
I mean, but I have to say, it's so impressive, like you said, that this would come out of the mind of a 10-year-old. A lot of the ideas in here are very mature. I mean, I know you added a lot to it, but like you said, the original kind of kernel of the ideas came from her, which is pretty amazing.
No, it is. I was shocked. I was like, okay, good job, Mom.
Yeah,
you need to have those moments, right? So I was like, okay, but I'm glad, because I want children to have stories where they learn these lessons, and sometimes they know it, but they just need a reminder. So I'm glad that now we have this book out there, and people are enjoying it, and that's what's most important.
And do you have any other books that are coming out soon, or what are you working on now?
Yes, as always, I'm always working on things, which is why I have been publishing almost 2 books a year, which I'm going to stop doing next year. But this year, I have 2 bilingual books coming out. Hopefully, I might be doing a pre-launch. I'm still working on it, but I'm going to be for sure pre-launching the books. They are bilingual books for Diwali and Holi, but they have a different take than most books. They kind of talk about the why in the now. So I'm very excited about that because first of all, they're bilingual, so they're going to be Hindi, English. And secondly, they talk about how Diwali belongs to all of us and how Holi belongs to all of us. Like a lot of people are like sharing their culture, but this book is more about how different cultures celebrate and why they do the traditions they do. So I'm kind of excited about that.
Oh, I'm very, very excited about those. So are you hoping then to have it out by Diwali this year?
The Diwali
Coming
book
up very
definitely will be
soon.
out.
I
Sorry?
was just saying that's coming up. I mean, in terms of publishing, that's actually coming up pretty soon.
Yes. So hopefully I'll be doing the pre-launch sometime by next week, and then the books should be out in September by September end, and in everyone's homes. Crossing my fingers. Let's see how it goes.
Well, congratulations and
Thank
good luck with
you.
that. We will
Thank
definitely
you.
share when you make the announcements. We'll make sure to share that in our stories. Thank you
Thank
so much for
you.
joining us and for all of these tips. If for anybody who hasn't checked it out yet, the new book is Sanya's New Starts, which I loved and my daughter loved as well. And of course, you have to check out all of the picture books, some of which we mentioned already, all about inclusive stories about personal growth for kids, and they're really very readable and have a lot of stories in there. I mean, a lot of lessons for kids in there, but in a really enjoyable way. So thank you so much for joining us today, even with all the technical problems. So I appreciate that.
Thank you so much. It's always such a pleasure to talk to you and dive into my own books because it's so wonderful. And thank you so much for all you do to support diverse voices, Liana. I don't think people tell you that enough.
Oh,
You are such a champion for all of us, and thank you so much for everything.
thank you so much for saying that. And for anybody watching, if you joined us late, this is going to be up on Instagram in just a few minutes, and then later you can find it on our YouTube channel. Bye, everybody. Bye, Aditi.
Thank you.
Bye.